Hey everybody, are you getting ready to do your winter containers and you're looking for some inspiration? Well, stick around today because I'm going to make an absolutely beautiful winter container. I'm going to do it in this paper mache pot. I like to use the paper mache pots because one, I can drop it down inside of another pot and it gives me some weight because I filled the whole thing with sand. And two, at the end of the season, I can take this whole thing, lift it out of my pot and just throw it in my compost pile for super easy cleanup. We're going to be using a lot of things from nature and we're going to be using some really beautiful greens. So stick around as we create this totally awesome winter container. Hey, will you guys do me a favor? So if you're new here, or maybe you've been watching for a while and you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate your support if you would subscribe below, hit the notification button so that you know when our videos come out, leave your comments and share with your friends. I love to hear from you guys, and I have some regular people out there now that are always commenting, and I love to hear from you guys. I love this little community that we're building. So thank you for your support and thank you for watching. So what we're gonna do today is we are gonna make this pot in this paper mache. Now, I use sand instead of dirt because sand is easier to anchor things in and it's got some good weight to it. And I think that maybe in the paper mache here, it holds water a little bit longer. Now, we want our pot to freeze, but we are not at freezing temperatures yet. We're still like 30s during the day, 20s at night, but then we'll get that 40-degree day and that 30-degree night. So nothing's really freezing yet. All the greens that we're going to use are living greens, and we want them to be able to drink. But the ultimate goal here in the north is that we want this pot to freeze. That way it will last all winter long. Now we're going to use a bunch of things from nature that we actually foraged from around my property. And there's a video that I did on foraging and you can go check that out. I'll link it below. But this pot will be one that you're going to like push up against your garage or push up against a wall. It's not necessarily one that you're going to see from all sides. It's one that you're going to see like this front 2/3 or front 3/4 of, and that's the style that we're going to create today. The main green that we're going to use in here is this beautiful Fraser fir. Isn't this gorgeous? Out of all the greens that I use, I think Fraser fir has the best staying power as far as how long it'll last. I usually don't have any problem with my pots lasting all the way into like April. But I'll tell you, Fraser fir is wonderful. Now, it doesn't have a great like smell like balsam does, but man, does it have staying power. And look at the beautiful green needles on that. So this will be about probably 75% of the greens that we use are gonna be this Fraser fir. Then I like to mix in what I call accent greens, and these are greens that are gonna complement my pot. I'm gonna work them into the pot, but they're not gonna take over the pot. I'm gonna be using things like this green boxwood. I'm also gonna be using some Carolina sapphire, and all of these greens are highlighted in a video that I did called my top 10 favorite winter greens. You can check that out. I will also link that one below. Anyways, this one is a princess pine, so this is a white pine tip, and I'm gonna be using that. I also have, I have some Port Oxford cedar, and so I've got that right there. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? It's got this beautiful flat green texture to it. And then I have this one called Concolor, and it's got a long blue-green needle. We also have some Douglas fir, and I just got these off the bottom of our Christmas tree. And it's got, again, a nice long, more probably airy and sparse looking, but it's a really beautiful green to mix in. And then I also have things that I foraged from around the yard. So look at this beautiful sedum that we're gonna use. Isn't that great? And I've got some limelight hydrangeas. Look at these things. They're bigger than my head, but we're gonna put some of these in there as well. And I have pine cones and birch, both logs and branches. So that's everything that we're gonna put in here. I know, it's gonna be absolutely gorgeous. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wire my pine cones. And you're like, why do you wire the pine cones? What do you mean? Well, I wire them and I put them on a dowel rod. And the reason I do that, because if I just stick them in here, they'll fall off. A squirrel will come and take them, or a windstorm will blow them into the neighbor's yard. So what I do is I use 22 gauge wire, and this is just a single wire. And what I do is I find the center of the wire and I look for the opening in the bottom of the pine cone. What I do is I set that wire like in the bottom right there, so that I have equal ends coming out either side. I'm gonna turn it around, and then I just fold this, okay? Can you see that? I fold it until it's in half, and then I just twist it a couple times. All right, so now if I spin it around like this, it doesn't go flying, all right? The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it on this dowel rod. So what I do is I go about a third of the way down the dowel rod, and I grab the end of the wire. So my pine cone should kind of be dangling like this. And I've got that wire attached or held onto the dowel rod with my thumb and my forefinger. I kind of just close my fist around this and I grab the pine cone. Now, whether you wrap the pine cone around the stick or you move the stick, it doesn't really matter. The goal is that you're going to get this wire from down here to up here, but you don't want to coil it all in one spot because then it'll just slip right off. You want to wrap it nice and tight and wrap it up the pine cone, okay? So that when you get to the end, like this, you have this little bitty nub right here. You don't want a big stick like this sticking out, because if I manipulate the pine cone in different directions in the pot, I'll see this nub. So what I want to do, if that happens and you wrap it on there, just twirl your dowel rod till you got just a little bitty nub on there. Stand your pine cone straight up and down and finish it by giving it a final twist. Did you hear that little crack? And it should stand up like a little lollipop, just like that. But now, see, I can maneuver it even upside down in my pot and have the pine cone go whatever direction I want it to go. So I'm going to do this with the pine cones that I collected. And then I've also got a few Austrian pine cones. These are the round fat ones. And I'm just going to get them all wired up. All right, there we go. 3, 5. I got 5 cones. I don't know if I'll use them all, but they're ready to be used if I want to use them. So I'm just going to set these to the side. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start filling the back of our pot. All right, so let's do our greens next. The first thing I always look for is I look for a couple longer pieces to go in the back. So as you can see here, I've got this is like the side branch, you know, that comes out like this. So it's a little bit longer. So what I'm doing is I'm looking to put these side branches right here in the very back. And I'm just going to put 2 of them in here. And this is really the back of my pot. And I'm not going to be creating a bunch of height with this, but I want to have my back kind of full to give me my base. Now this is Fraser fir that I'm doing. Now the next thing I'm going to put in my pot is this beautiful birch. And I'm going to put 2 logs in. These are probably 2 feet long. And they're not crazy long because the pot that I'm going to be putting this in is a smaller pot. So I don't need to make it so proportionately bigger than my pot that I'm putting it in that this looks all wonky. The other thing is, if you're just going to leave it out just like this, you don't want to make it so top heavy that it falls over. So I am going to be using just 2-foot pieces of birch. So what I do is I put it in the center of the pot, and I like to make like a V, so I kind of lean it to one side or the other. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it down inside the sand. So there's one. The other one, I'm going to put it in front of and lean it the other direction. There it is. So now I have this nice V going on. And as you can see, do you see? Goes up there, and it's not much taller than the greens that I put on there. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in the rest of the pot with the Fraser fir. Now, one of the things that I like to do is I will find branches that are a little bit longer, and I will put it in this way. And what will happen is by putting it in the sand this way, I'm going to make my pot wider. I don't want it to be straight up and down, unless that's the look you're going for, because maybe you have a narrow space that you're designing in, but I want mine to be a little bit wider. So I am going to put some side branches in first, and then what I'll do is I'll continue to fill in moving forward, and as I move forward with the pieces, they'll get smaller and smaller and smaller. I don't want to cover up this beautiful birch that I just put in here. And then, you know, some people say, I'm not artsy fartsy, I can't do this. But you can, because it's really visual. When you're putting your pieces in, stand back and look at it and see if you like where you put all the pieces. And your eyes will go. If there's a hole or if one side is fuller than the other, you'll know where to put the next green. So I'm just going to keep filling this in. And if you have a wonky stem like this, give it a cut so that you're putting a straight stem in. Don't put forked branches in because they won't stay in very well. So I can cut this branch in half. And what I'll do is I'll go to the top of a stem coming out, see, and then I'll have 2 smaller pieces. And then I'll fill those in the front. The other thing is if you ever have a branch where you can see the cut, like where you cut it, you want to go in and give it a 45-degree cut backwards, like this, and then the cut is in the back, see, and then you can't see it. That works too as a trick so you don't see that. All right, I'm just going to put one more piece in here, and then we'll be ready to move on to our next green. Okay, so I'm going to give you my next suggestion. This isn't a rule, but well, okay, this is a rule. You need to do this because your pot will look great if you do this. every green that you put on from now on gets worked into your other greens. Nothing gets slapped back here into the back of the pot, because then it just looks like an afterthought, like you just threw it in there. So what I do is everything that I do that's tall, I work behind the birch. Everything that I do that's short, I work in front of the birch. And everything that I do, I think about a fan, and I'm fanning it out. And that's kind of the approach that I'll take. So the first green that I'm going to put in are my longer, taller greens. And so as you can see, I've got this beautiful Douglas fir. And the other thing you want to do is you don't want to make this so high up here that it looks all like, why is this one piece sticking way up? So you want to work your pieces in where you need to have some greens. So I'm going to be working this in between the Fraser fir, but behind the birch, so that because it's taller. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to turn this around, and you can see that I'm going to work it in. I'm going to put a piece right there. I'm going to give this one a little cut. I'm going to put a piece right here. And then I'm going to put one more piece coming out the other way. All right, the next green I'm going to use is this Carolina Sapphire. Now, this is a multi-branched piece, and it's very long. And one thing you don't want to do is just glob something into the middle of your pot. So I'm actually going to break this down into smaller pieces. And so, see, I get a smaller piece like this. And then, see, I've got some long branches over here, so I'm going to cut all of those off. If you don't want to have a stub in there like that, just go all the way to the top of the next branch and cut that stub at a 45 degrees backwards. Just like that. See, and then I've got this nice bushy piece right here. So now I'm going to insert this right here, and I'm going to work it in again in between the greens. How am I doing? I can't even see what I'm doing. But I've made a lot of these pots. All right, and then I'm going to put one more piece right here. I'm liking that so far. All right, so that's all I'm going to put in. You can overdo it and put a green in and have that take over what you've got going on. These are to complement you guys, not take it over. The Fraser fir is the main green. Actually, let's do a little bit of the boxwood. So this one is a shorter green, so it's going to be more towards like the front. Now again, I'm not going to stick it right here. I'm going to work it in, and I am going to give the boxwood a fresh cut, because the boxwood will dry out if it doesn't have a fresh cut, and I will be spraying this boxwood with a product called Wilt Stop. This is Wilt Stop, and Wilt Stop will help seal the needles so they don't dry out. If you just put this in your container, more than likely what's going to happen is if you have cold temperatures, this will kind of just dry out, curl up, and then crunch. If I spray this with the Wilt Stop and do a good spray on it, I used this last year and did this, and they lasted all winter. So it's an important step if you're going to use a boxwood. If you don't want to mess with any of that, just use Northern Greens and don't use a boxwood. I am going to give it a nice fresh cut, make it a little bit shorter, and I'm going to work it in. I can't do it now without looking. I have to see. So I am going to take, I ended up using 2 pieces, and I just broke it down so that I got more pieces. Give it a fresh cut. All right, and I'm going to put this one right back there. What do you guys think? So see, coming together. So this is my Port Oxford cedar. Isn't it pretty? And it's kind of branchy. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of fan it across the back. I'm going to stay behind the birch and kind of work it in between the other greens that I have going in there. Yep, I want a piece right there. And then I'm going to put a piece in the middle, like right here. So see how I keep layering it forward. And so see, I've got a nice fan of that working across the back. Nice. Sometimes white pine is a great one to use if you've created a hole and you need to have a piece of green to put there to fill the hole. Or if you need textural differences, maybe you don't have this many varieties, this is a great one to give you textural difference. So this one here, I feel like I need to have, and again, don't shove it in the back of the pot. I'm going to put it right here. There we go. So it kind of comes out right there. And I feel like if I'm going to put one in the middle, maybe I want one over here. Like that. And then one on the other side. So I ended up using 3 pieces of the white pine. And sometimes hold it up and see if you like where it's going to go. And if you don't like it, pull it out. What do you guys think? Nice, huh? All right, so now we're going to decorate. This is the greens. We've got the birch in here, and we're going to now put our pine cones in, our hydrangeas, and all the pretties. So let's set this to the side, and and let's get our hydrangeas ready because I want to glitter them up. So I ended up not using the con color. I think I have enough in here. I don't think I need another green. And the thing about it is you don't have to use this many greens. I think 3 would work as long as you've got some textural differences, because I think that makes your pot look better. Now, if you only have one kind of green, then maybe these other things that we're going to put in there are going to give you the pretties that you're looking for. So these are sedum that I cut a couple weeks ago. And what I'm going to do is I want to put some glitter on these. But if I just, take glitter and put it on there, it's going to fall right off. And I'm just using white. I'm not trying to tint them a color. I just want, like, when you walk by it and it hits the light and it kind of reflects a little bit. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish. Clear polyurethane. All right, so I'm going to spray the tops and then I'm going to glitter. And then I just shake off the excess. See, isn't that pretty? Because dried flowers are so delicate and light, I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to wrap it around this bunch of stems that I have here. Okay, I'm going to just wrap it around on there. You could probably use floral tape too. Make sure it's waterproof because it is going outside. I think the wire works just fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the stems. Okay, so I've got just these short little stems. Now I put mine on a dowel rod, and the reason I do that is because this will go into the sand deep, and then I don't have to worry about it coming out if a windstorm comes by, or I don't know, maybe a bird or a squirrel or something wants to take my flowers. Right? There we go. And I've made my little bouquet of flowers that I can put into my arrangement. Now I'm just going to use one of these, and then I'm going to use 2 of the Limelight hydrangeas. I'm just going to sprinkle this with the glitter. And again, remember with glitter, not everything will stick. So maybe you want to do it over a surface or over the garbage can so you don't have to clean all the glitter up later. Okay. All right. See, I don't know if you can see that on there, but I can. It looks great. Now, I did cut my hydrangea stems really, really long, but these stems are really brittle and really light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hold it up like where do I want this in here? And I'm going to cut the stem and I'm going to add a dowel rod because the dowel rod is going to be sturdier and it's going to give me more height. If I did cut the stem short, it's a way to get more height, but this is going to be sturdier. Whereas if I try to push this into the arrangement, I might break the stem, and I only have 4 left. I used all the rest of them, or I gave them away. Not that I couldn't go cut some more because I can, but I'm here and I've got these and I want to use them. Hydrangea number 1. I want these to be fairly high. Let me see what it looks like. Yep, there's one. And then I've got my second one right here. I'm going to have it come right below it. There's my 2 hydrangeas in there. I like where they're at. And then I've got my little flower bouquet right here. And I'm going to put this in as well. I'm going to put it over here by this boxwood. All right, there we go. So there's my 3 pieces kind of coming down like this. The next thing I'm going to put in are my pine cones. So let's see. Where do I want to put these? I might have to hop up on the table. Okay, now I can see and you can see. All right, now when you do it, put the dowel rod to the back because the goal is that you don't see the dowel rod. Okay, so I'm going to put one here like that. And you don't want it shoved down inside. You want it nestled, okay, so that it looks like it belongs there. So it's not floating and it's not shoved in, okay? There's a fine line between the two. All right, the next one I'm going to put over here like this. And then I'm going to put the second one with it. So there's like 2 over here. So I kind of have like a balance between this and this over here. Okay? I like everything about that so far. So I'm kind of really going for a natural look on this one. And again, you can bling it out if you want. And I can bling with the best of them. But this one this year, I'm feeling kind of natural. So that's what I'm going to do. And glitter is as blingy as it's going to get. All right, here's my bow. This is the ribbon that I've chosen. I did put it on a dowel rod, and I am going to put it in the front of the pot. So I do have to trim my stem just a little bit, and I want to make sure the tails are going down. Now, instead of grabbing the bow and shoving it in there, what I do is I grab the dowel rod, and I use my thumb on the round part, and I grab the bottom of the dowel rod, and I use the dowel rod to push it into the pot. That way the bow doesn't slide off. See, and then I just fluff everything and make it all pretty. All right. The last thing I'm going to put in, and you could use red twig dogwood, you could use whatever you want. These are birch branches that I picked off of a tree, And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert these in. And again, I'm just looking for a little bit of height. I want to complement what I've already got going on. I'm not going to put so much of this in here that it looks like it's crazy. This is just to complement, you guys. Don't let the little sticks take over. So there it is in all its glory. I love the way this turned out. And as you can see, this isn't one that you're going to view from all sides. I'm going to put this up on either side of my garage, and it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to make another one, so I'm going to have a pair. Isn't that great? I love how this turned out. I just think it's so pretty. And it's all naturals, and it's going to hold up really well. Now, your hydrangeas, if they're exposed to a lot of snow and wind, they might fall apart on you. I have a little bit more of a protected area, so they work well for me. But you can certainly do whatever you'd like as far as your embellishments. But this is mine, and I think it turned out great. Okay, you guys, I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful pot with me. I hope you're inspired to go out and make your own pot. There's so many different ways that you can make a pot. And when it comes right down to it, visually, it's up to you to love what it is that you do. These are just some ideas to inspire you. So go out there, make a pot, make it beautiful, make it your own. I'm going to take these, put them on my front porch, and totally enjoy them. So I'm Michelle. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. We'll see you in the next video where we're going to decorate the front porch. See you then. Bye, guys.